Welcome back to TV5 News at 9. Grab your tater tots and don't forget to vote for Pedro. The cult classic film Napoleon Dynamite turns 20 years old this year, and to celebrate, your favorite cast members are coming to the Capitol Theater in Flint next week for an event you won't want to miss. Calling in from Washington, we have Napoleon himself, Mr. John Heater. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
John, it is so nice to meet you, and it's so hard to believe Napoleon Dynamite came out 20 years ago. It's honestly one of my favorite films, and I want to know how the character of Napoleon came about, and was this a breakout role for you?
It was a breakout. I mean, it was my first role. So if so sometimes breakout roles, signify that there are other roles before that. There was no roles before it. This character came about like just hanging out in my psyche for years before, and Jared Hess, my friend and the guy who wrote and directed this movie, he this was his life growing up in Preston, Idaho, and we met. We were just film students together, and we started talking about this character and what we could do, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is me growing up, and this is what it was like for me as a youth in some, in many similar ways. And so we made a movie, and we had a blast.
It's a very specific kind of comedy. I'd say it's my kind of comedy, but I've got to ask about the iconic dance scene near the end of the movie. What was rehearsing for that like? Did you improv at all?
Yeah, it was just freestyled. Jared knew that I'd like to dance and mess around. Kind of like, we were in college and we had similar friend circles. And he was like, John, I hear you like to boogie. So that's, he wrote that into the script. And I was like, Jared, I don't, what do you have someone who will choreograph? And I was like, well, he's like, no, just what do you normally do? And I was like, well, I normally just freestyle. He's like, all right, just do that. So we played some cool music and I just freestyle.
I love that that was completely freestyle. That makes it even better. Do you remember some of the early reactions to Napoleon Dynamite and what people first thought?
Yeah, they didn't like it. No, I mean, in the beginning, obviously it was a mixed bag. There's, when we first premiered at Sundance at some, at film festivals, people took to it pretty well. But, that's normally the kind of people who go to those festivals are looking for weird and quirky. But your general audiences, when it hit theaters, people who wandered in mistakenly, thought they were seeing something else. And they said, the first time I saw that movie, I thought it was weird. I didn't get it. But then like on one or two more viewings, they're like, it's my favorite movie. So yeah, it took a while to warm up, but once it got going, people loved it.
Are you surprised the film was as successful as it was at the time?
To a certain degree, I thought when we made it, yeah, I certainly thought there's an audience for this. But it depends on, what you consider success. Like I thought it'd be successful if we got, the indie crowd coming to see this movie at a few festivals and recognizing it for that and maybe having a little bit of a cult following. But I had no idea that we would grab the audience that we did from all ages, little kids to senior citizens to grandparents to everyone in between. Everybody seemed, the fact that it became such a great family film and people were sitting around at Christmas time watching that movie, that was a surprise.
Well, John, I love that you still keep in touch with your cast members after all these years, and you all still embrace the film and love talking about it with a newer generation. Outside of Napoleon, who would you say was your favorite character in the film?
Ooh, I love Kip.
Yeah.
Kip's great. Yeah. Kip is he was the other actor who was not really an actor like myself, but we were friends with Jared, Aaron Rule, and yeah, he was wonderful. And just like I thought, that he's just bizarre, and his performance is so subtle. I love Kip.
Sounds like you guys didn't have to do too much acting. You were kind of playing a different version of yourselves, right?
To a certain degree, yes. I thought, while, Aaron Rule, who looks the part of Kip, was very different in person. And so there's definitely some, first time, I think just natural acting there. Napoleon, certainly, I would always tell people, yeah, I'm basically like Napoleon, except that I smile in real life, and he never does.
That's true. And John, it's been a while since we've seen you on the big screen. Of course, we all remember some of your hits from the early 2000s, like The Benchwarmers, Just Like Heaven, When in Rome. One of my favorites, Blades of Glory with Will Ferrell. But I'm curious, what does your life look like now? Are you still acting at all or working on any projects?
Yep. I have a movie. Let's see, a movie just came out called Plan B. I have a new movie that is going to come out. It's coming out in festivals right now, and hopefully will hit some theaters, called Waltzing with Brando, starring Billy Zane and myself. That's kind of a mini biopic on Marlon Brando. And so, we're pretty excited for that film. Yeah, that's just a couple of the other projects coming out. You just got to look a little bit closer, and you'll find me in those indie films. And yeah, I love it.
Awesome, good to know. And real quick, I want to circle back to your show next week on Thursday, December 5th at 7 p.m. You will be joining Everin Ramirez, who played Pedro, and John Grice, who played Uncle Rico, at the Capitol Theater in Flint for a screening of the classic movie, followed by a little Q&A session with the audience. But what else should we expect at the show, and what are you most excited about?
I think what's great about our shows, what people can really get into is like, they show the film, but I think the highlight afterward is kind of, we don't even call it a Q&A session really more. We just call it like I guess you could call it interactive Q&A show. It's a great way to experience the fans and to kind of interact with one another and to have hands-on experiences where we play games and do prizes and do scene reenactments and sing and maybe dance. Like it's a lot of fun, and it's just it's been 20 years, and it's just great to see how the fans have grown and how they have expanded, and all the younger, newer generation who's discovering the movie. And so it's really a celebration of that, and we have a blast.
Well, John, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it and wish you the best of luck on the rest of your tour. And you, John, and Everin, all the best.
Thank you so much.
Once again, you can catch Napoleon Dynamite live December 5th at the Capitol Theater in Flint. Tickets start at $25. Genesee County residents receive 30% off. You can find more information and where to buy tickets in the hot link section of our website. Just visit WNEM.com.